Now.
Okay, I'd like to call the Dover Select Board meeting, special meeting into session at 8:04 a.m. Today, we're going to have a work session with the Economic Development Department. And we ask for everybody to hold their comments so we get towards the Q&A part of the meeting, which is about 8:45, depending on where we're at. We really want to try to wrap up the meeting at 9 because everybody has other commitments. And then we'll go into executive session with Eric. So with that, we have, for anybody who doesn't know, Trace Bertles is here, Joe, Dan, Vicki, Shannon, Patty, and Eric. That's who's in the room here. And I'm going to pass it over to Eric.
Should I turn my mic on my computer, or is that okay?
Oh, and Royal just walked in.
Okay. So can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay.
Could you maybe a little? Yeah.
Actually, Tabby, while I'm talking, why don't you mute this one and also. If you want to mute that mic and I'll unmute.
How long do you like that?
Okay, so I'd like to start by taking a look at what we're currently working on. And I'm going to go ahead and start that with our resiliency efforts. So myself and Shannon are part of the Deerfield Valley Resiliency Team, which is made up of our department, our counterpart Gretchen Haverluck in the ED department down in Wilmington, and Meg Staloff, Wilmington Works. Formerly working on projects like the webinars that a lot of the businesses have been a part of, and providing, weekly updates to our local businesses in terms of resiliency efforts and programs that are available to you. Also, currently working on, we implemented the Eat, Sleep, Shop Local program, which I think we ended up having 45 businesses or so valley-wide hop on. We're all working on an initiative with the state known as the Vermont Welcome Wagon that's working with incoming second homeowners and business owners to kind of guide them towards, what's happening locally and give them a connection to somebody who can kind of be their liaison to things that are happening around the town. We're currently working on an initiative through the state funding called Everybody Eats, which connects local restaurants with local producers and suppliers to create up to 500 meals a week for residents to be picking up, who may be having a hard time feeding the family. The other thing that we're working on right now is that I'm applying for a grant through the state and the ACCD to get $10,000 in funding to put together what we're calling a stay and play lodging package program. So Meg is doing the same thing in Wilmington. Combined, we would have a total of $20,000. And what we intend to do with that money is to go to our local retail stores and restaurants and purchase gift certificates to them that will then be put into packages and provided to our local inn and lodge owners, so that you guys can then turn around and say, hey, book a weekend with us and get this package where you're getting gift certificates to eat at local restaurants, shop at local, retail establishments, and things like that. The gift certificates in themselves would not be enough to purchase an entire meal. So not only are you guys going to get the room bookings, with this carrot on the stick, but it's also going to give the restaurants and retail money up front and then provide more money as the people come to redeem the gift certificates. So that we're looking for a total of about $20,000. Our department is also a part of the Wyndham Economic Resiliency Team, which is formed by the BDCC and includes organizations like our own, again, Gretchen and Meg, organizations from Brattleboro up into the Rockingham Bellows Falls area, the ACCD, our local and federal legislators. So we meet with them. It was once a week, now it's once every other week, just to kind of discuss what's happening at a local and state level. We are also working directly with the ACCD when they are forming their programs to provide our input as to what kind of assistance is going to be most helpful to our local businesses right now. Because as much as economic development is, bringing in new businesses, right now it's also about keeping everybody else afloat too. So working with the ACCD to form those programs in a way that's going to be most helpful to the businesses that are struggling right now. And then we have periodic meetings with our local legislators, state legislators, to talk about what's happening boots to ground, so that as they're making state packages and things like that, they know exactly what kind of assistance is needed by all of you at this time. I didn't have it right here on my list, but I'm also applying for a grant through the state, the LGER program. We may actually be able to take back in about $28,000 of the money that we've spent so far on grants and programming and things like that as it pertains to coronavirus. I know it's a drop in the hat compared to what we did spend out on those programs. However, it's money that we didn't think we were going to be getting back at all. So through the program, we can actually redeem up to $25 for each person on the 2010 census, and that comes out to be $28,100. So I will have that application in. That is completely separate from the money that Jeanette would be eligible for the other supplies that are in the office through FEMA. So this is an additional $28,100 on top of any FEMA money that we may be eligible for those all the stuff we bought. So second on my list is internet. And that comes in a number of different forms. I've been speaking locally with Duncan and hoping to set up meetings with other ISPs to talk about what might be available in terms of expansion. The second arm of that is that Shannon is an alternate on the Deerfield Valley CUD, which is having pretty progressive and quick discussions about how to expand internet, reliable internet, fiber internet, and then also having thoughts about, okay, if neither of those is the road to go, what's it look like to issue another RFP and what we could get quickly implemented to some of the underserved spaces in Dover. So that's kind of where we are looking at the internet thing. Shannon, did you have any notes on the CUD progress?
So a lot of the work is happening in the vendor subcommittee. They're working really hard right now to go through a lot of processes. Currently, there are 15 member towns. That does seem to grow each month as we have a governing board meeting. They are open to the public, so if you would like to see what's happening, you can go to dbfiber.org, I think is their current website. We're working on updating that too, but just to see what's happening there. So there's a core group of people working really hard to bring that to the area.
Thank you. Third on my list of priorities is our town website. In looking at the Google Analytics for the doververmont.com, currently 75% of our traffic is coming in on a tablet or a smartphone. As you're probably all aware from previous discussions, our site is not what they call responsive. So if someone does come in on a tablet or a cell phone, it's not adapting our website down to a format that is viewable by those visitors. So in my mind, especially with as many people as we have joining us here in town, all the houses that are selling, it's really important that that information is available and accessible via all platforms. I've already had several discussions with and a few walkthroughs and proposals from some businesses that deal specifically with municipal websites, including the one that we currently use. And I think once we make the decision to start heading down that road, we can have an RFP out and have some proposals in from those businesses and get moving on this rather quickly. Like I said, I think I think it's pretty important that it's something we look at, pretty quickly so that there's access to that. Another thing that I've been working on the side, only because you guys pay me to run the ED department and not necessarily to design websites, right? But I did want to share with you a side project. If it's not something you're interested in, I will stop. It's not something I've used town time for. It's something that I've just been working on. And I think we could have it implemented quickly, even if it was as a Band-Aid until we had the full site produced. So Tabby, I'm going to share I can't share my screen.
I can reach out to you, I believe. Hold on a second.
So in my research of town websites and things like that, there's a growing trend where the economic development section of the town actually has its own sub-site of the town. So that has a lot to do with the fact that we have a lot of information that we can be sharing, and maybe not necessarily just on a couple of pages of the website. Start. Oops. Start my video. I'm sure I still can't share.
Yeah, hang on a second.
So what I did is I put together, a mock-up of what our ED site could be for, again, just this site could be live, within a week if I finish the content, and it would cost us less than $200 to have hosted for a year. Still can't share my screen, unfortunately.
Hang on.
Sorry, folks.
Eric, could you put out the request to ask to share screen?
So share screen. It just says close to save.
If I flip to make you host for a moment, then share your screen, and then we'll switch that
Okay,
back.
that's totally
That should
fine.
work.
That's cool.
All right.
There we go. Okay. So, this is a mock-up of what I've come up with for our Dover Economic Development website. It starts out on the front page with, just some photos and things of the town, links to important information. This will provide access to, I'm not scrolling as I scroll. This link here will provide access to all of the current COVID information. It will be updated as more information comes in. The section below provides an update or some information about our economic development department and myself and Shannon. And below that there is a section for to contact us directly. The nice thing about this website is that all of the information is completely accessible within 3 clicks of landing on the website, which is the standard for website design at this point. Under Why Dover, this is about getting people to look at Dover, there we go, to live here. So we have Welcome to Dover, which provides information, basic information about what it's like to live in Dover. A history of Dover, which is actually, at this point borrowed and to be expanded on from the town website. We have a link to all of our reports and plans. The town report, the town plan, the Mullen report, housing, the rec plan, all of those things are right here on this page. Also under Why Dover, local resources, so local contacts, other information and things like that. Information about the Vermont Welcome Wagon. There's a calendar of events where anything that's happening in Dover could be added to that, either by us or by an outside party. And then a link to our recreation assets in terms of trails, eventually, anything that comes out of the rec plan, whether that be a skate park or disc golf or any of those things. There is also a section called Our Businesses. So it provides a directory of our current local businesses, which is a little more graphic, I think, than what we currently had. These the links across the top will be anchored to these sections so that somebody could get to this spot on the website, click on that, it would drop them down to the anchor. So if they wanted to see rec and entertainment, it would drop them down to the rec and entertainment section, including all of the business logos and information, and all of those logos will link directly to those business websites. Incentives for business, that's where I'll be sharing the information about our Do It and DAS and signage programs and anything else, including the BDCC program, which I'll be touching on in a moment. There's a spot for businesses to post a job and also a spot for anybody who's moved to town to then find that job. A spot where I will be linking any upcoming or recorded webinars or trainings that pertain to our businesses. Another link back to our COVID recovery resources, information on succession planning, and then TJ Sibilia has asked that we provide a section on one of the websites where they're able to provide updates on the Deerfield Valley CUD. The third section of the website will be starting a business, and all of these sections will grow, they will expand, more information will be added to them, you know, if we move forward with this project on a regular basis. It's not a heavy lift. This is not like we'd be, you know, full-time managing a website. The way this is set up, the information is added and removed very easily, and it's just a spot for all these resources to live. So, you know, when we had first started having to when I was meeting with the select board during my interview process and things, we had discussed, you know, a startup roadmap for businesses in Dover. This is a digital version of said roadmap with links to, you know, okay, let's work with our business template and our plan. Let's reach out to RT Brown and Deb Boudreau at the BTS BDC to talk about our plan. Registering your business with the Vermont Secretary of State, finding a space, and so on as you go down through the process of starting your business. And then, you know, eventually talking to Tabby, and then all of these things will be laid out in this process as you go down through the process. So then the Find a Space will provide them with an inventory of current open spaces, which we already have, you know, in terms of open retail spaces, open dining spaces, office spaces all around Dover, and that will be updated as those spaces become available. And then current economic indicators, we'll kind of talk about, you know, maybe share some data from the 1%, which may be a little depressing during the COVID time, but, you know, historical 1% and things like that, I think just giving them that information right up front is an important thing. So all of these things that I've included here, I've taken as, you know, from other templates that I've seen of economic development specific websites, because I feel that all of this information is pertinent and can be expanded on and added to pretty quickly. So that's just one thing that I wanted to show you. Again, if it's not the direction we want to go right now, then that's fine. It hasn't taken any town time. It's all been on my personal time. Moving along, I just mentioned the BDCC program. So I'm working with RT Brown to set up a revolving loan fund for the town of Dover, for the businesses in the town of Dover, both current and new owners. That would provide them up to $50,000 in, you know, a loan, revolving loan at a decent rate. It also provides 3% of that $50,000 would come in the form, or an additional 3% of $50,000 would come in the form of a grant from the BDCC to provide technical assistance on starting their business and maintaining their business. And then another 3% grant would be coming out of our business development fund. I think we discussed up to $40,000 of that fund as a grant that does not need to be repaid on top of the loan. So you actually end up with about $56,000 for a loan of $50,000 through this program. Again, it would be eligible, any current business would be eligible, as well as starting businesses. So I'm working with RT right now to kind of hammer out the details on that. We are working on, you know, business recruitment and assistance of starting of new businesses. So, you know, Toddy's food truck has just opened up. They were a little further along in the process than, you know, than needing our assistance, but we did provide them with kind of the photo op and ribbon cutting the other day. We shared that from the town website. There was a lot of engagement from our site as well as shares. There was a ton of views on that post. So I think in her head, that was something that was important to her because it helped to spread the word that that business is open in Dover, and just to kind of feel like we're looking out for them and excited that they're opening up. There is an antique collaborative that I've been working with in the Green Mountain Interiors building. They're hoping to open as soon as they get all of their permits and everything in order over there. So that should be open very soon. It's exciting. It's, you know, they're inviting other makers and creators and antique sellers to be a part of that. They have that huge space in the Green Mountain Interiors building, so that is exciting. In the Mount Snow Marketplace, we have Deerfield Bar and Bottle, who has started the process of opening their business there, so we'll be providing assistance to them. And then I'm speaking with Tabby about the potential of a new dining establishment or food truck in the very near future with someone who's recently moved to their second home full time. Moving along, looking at the rec plan. So finalizing, having it presented and implementing the rec plan. I am in constant contact with all of the parties that have a vested interest in this rec plan. So trails, the skate park, the disc golf. You know, I'm going to be talking with Mike about the pump track and everything that's listed in this rec plan. So I think, you know, Shannon and I have been through it multiple times from the draft to the final. And as they present it, I think it'll help to give us a clear plan of how we move forward and how we allocate those funds. Also, as a part of that rec plan, and it's something that Shannon and I have discussed internally. I think I've mentioned it to maybe one or two of the board members in private conversation, just in passing. And I've actually had members of the public come in and ask me about this as well, is the possibility and the logistics of the town purchasing the tennis court property on Route 100. I understand that we are not in the business of owning a ton of property and taking things off of the tax reels. However, that is an opportunity, I think, to secure a piece of land that's visible and accessible from Route 100 to kind of facilitate a lot of the things. If you look through the rec plan, a lot of them, well, not a lot, but maybe half of them don't necessarily fit on the land that we owned up in Horace Hill, right? So when you're looking at things like a skate park or a functional pickleball court, or you know, even the Gaga pits, or even a pump track, we're going to need somewhat flatter ground. So I kind of started the conversation with Phil Waller about what he's looking for out of that land. Nothing super serious. You know, we haven't committed to anything. Obviously, I wanted to bring it in front of you guys, but I just wanted to put it in your ear that that's something that we've considered as far as the rec plan goes. Affordable housing. So I've personally spoken with an investor about the potential of a new residence facility in Dover. I don't know that he's still headed in that direction, but I will maintain that conversation, because if he completes the project, the other project that he's also talking about, I would still like to circle back to him on that. And then you know, really working on developing, you know, programs and incentives to kind of create in Dover, to create and maintain, you know, lower to middle income housing availability, so that we can have people come and live and work here and not have to travel in from outside. And the final thing, you know, that's kind of at the top of our list is getting through the Bytown marketing process. We've just finished, well, we're almost done with the RFQ process. They've all been reviewed and scored. We will be making a final decision on our consultant to come in and review, you know, to provide us with that 5-year strategic marketing plan. So we should have that decision made by Monday. And then also working through the implementation of our fall program, which is being run by Trampoline again this year. So you should start seeing that beginning of September. So those are just kind of the notes that I've had. I also provided the board with, this is obviously not everything that I've done since I got here. This is just an idea of some of the steps that I'm taking to work towards some of the goals that I've been talking about with you. You know, there's other things like, you know, we have had discussions previously about supplying the owner at Bogle Road with a graphic representation of what the shrubs look like on his property. So this may not be exactly the scale, but at least gives us something to show him, hey, you know, if this is all we're talking about doing on Bogle Road, you know, this may be enough to help us push that project over the edge and get it moving forward. So again, those are the main initiatives that we're working on, and I would love to hear from the board what it is that you'd like to see us working on.
Anybody have anything to add? suggestion?
Want to be able to have a shovel ready, not shovel ready.
Excuse me, I didn't hear that.
That project that we've been working on, I want to have it shovel ready, so we need to get that easement on that.
The Vogel Road?
Yes.
Yeah, I think time is of the essence, because I think that the grant money is in jeopardy. I mean, either we need to say it's gonna happen or it's not gonna happen,
Yeah.
and then we can move on.
So we did confirm it's not so much that the money is in jeopardy, it's more that the state may just come in and say, we're doing this.
Enough.
Right.
Or- yeah.
So I did confirm with Sarah. Sarah, I think, had some.
Yeah, so I have not yet, but I'm this week reaching out to the property owner. We need to show him, because we made some modifications from the original design that will make it a little bit less, we're taking a little bit less of his land to do it. And so Eric and I'm setting up a time when he can come up, because he lives in Maryland, so he's not here a lot, when he can look at it and Eric and I can walk it with him. And just explain that if we don't do this cooperatively, the state is going to do it by force. And that we want to try to do it cooperatively, because then we can offer some assistance in terms of, like planting some shrubbery for a visual break and things of that nature. So right now we're in the process of getting that meeting together. My contact at the state said it's not a have to do it right now, but it's a don't wait around for it. So they're not holding a gun to our heads right now, but they're probably loading it.
Anybody else have any other comments on the list that, the things that the Economic Development Department is currently working on?
So obviously, in addition to these things, we have our current program still running, which is what Shannon is focused on, right? So we just wrapped up doing for this year. She's still managing that, any signage applications that come in, and then, again, the revolving loan once we get that going from the BDCC. So the background things, the day-to-day things are still happening. These are more macro projects that we're looking at the moment. And if there's anything we're doing that you think, well, that probably isn't economic development, I'd love to know, because I don't want to be headed in the wrong direction based on what you guys are looking for out of our team.
Not what, I like the way you say what.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Dan?
In regards to the do it program, for example, in my particular space at Snow Mountain office, we put in, doing all kinds of stuff. The sign is not just in disrepair, but it's falling down and there's junk all over the ground. I don't think this town should allow them to have any support until they clean up their place. Because that's not something that requires funding, that requires just taking it to the dumpster. So I think there should be a special requirement or a requirement in the Do It program. If you want us to help you, God helps those who help themselves.
Noted. I would say that is in, when we reevaluate the program, which we usually do every year. So we will make that a possible discussion. Joe?
So when you say what we as a select board want, it's really as a whole what the community wants. So people coming to this meeting, what you're saying today and what we're working on is key, okay? And I think we should do this not once a year, we should do this every quarter. So you can give an update to the whole public, so people are aware of what we are doing and what we have succeeded at. Okay? It's not really what the board wants, it's what the whole community wants. So I like the fact that you think that we're the ones, I'm looking for info when I talk to the community on what we should be going for. And you guys you got everything now structured where hopefully we can get some good results through the whole program.
Sure.
So Shannon and I have actually talked about the fact that, our department used to be a lot more transparent than it currently is or has been in the immediate past. So whether it's quarterly, whether it's monthly, we'd like to be putting out a report of, okay, here are the things that we're focused on right now, so that the board knows, the community knows, and our business owners know exactly what it is that we're focused on as economic development, because some of these projects may not be completed within a month, right? So you may not see those results right off the top. So that if we can be putting those reports out so that everybody can see what it is that we're working on and where we are in that process, that's the transparency of our department is something that I think is absolutely key for us to be successful, as a town.
I would completely agree with you. I think that monthly is, the department's tried to do things monthly, and it's a little often. I personally think that quarterly is probably fine, because a lot of these things take a little more than, and then all you're doing is doing reports and regurgitating some of the same things because you haven't moved on, because it takes longer. Royal, we're going to do Q&A as soon as the board is done with members of our community, so just hang on 1 second and we'll get to you. Any other comments from board members? I personally am happy that you are fluid enough that obviously the resiliency program, because this is where we are, and this is where we are here today, is a priority. And so we always have to keep that in mind, that we may have a list of priorities, but those priorities could change literally overnight as they did. And I think that I appreciate that you recognize that those are very important. Not that, the internet and the housing and everything else that we have on the website are all really important, but sometimes we have to jump and change. We had another Irene, obviously things change. So I appreciate that we have all those, and some of them will move forward and some will move back. A- may just drop off the list. We don't know. So I appreciate that. So if the board has no other questions, I will move it to questions and comments from the public. Right.
So there's a rumor going around town about Mount Snow only opening for season pass holders. In that event, that really cuts down on the number of visitors that would even be able to come in our upcoming big ski season, which everyone knows is our big season. So on these plans, do they mostly assume that we're going to have, quote, a normal bunch of visitors? Or what do we do if we don't? Or can we squash that rumor if it's not true? That kind of thing. So that's just sort of a comment and a question.
Sure.
So, Tracy, thank you for coming today. Tracy Bartels is the new general
Oh, you're the
manager.
new person. Hey, let's see what you look like.
So we are in constant communication with both Tracy and Tim at the Mountain to gather any information we can about what the upcoming ski season looks like, as well as coordinating a call between Tracy and her Vail team and our local business owners. We had planned to do that in the beginning of August. The decision was made to move that just because there wasn't enough information available to make that a viable meeting. We're still in constant contact about when that meeting can happen and making sure that all of the business owners are invited. That'll be a direct invitation meeting to any business owner who's interested in participating. But that information will be out to the businesses. I think that the important thing right now is that we don't go on assumptions and that we don't go on rumors, because there's been a lot of those things throughout the valley. So I think for any business owner to freak out right now and start planning on a rumor or assumption is not necessarily the way to go. So just know that our department, working directly with Tracy and Tim, will be providing that information, the actual information, as soon as it is available.
Well, the thing is, I start doing my marketing now. And if it's only season pass holders, I'll be closed for the season. So that's where a lot of business, I'm a ski lodge, I'm the Mountaineers Inn ski lodge, and right at the base of the mountain. And I think I'm typical of the other lodge owners and inns around the area. And, we can't wait till November 30th to do our typical marketing. And we have lots of groups, we've got to tell them if we're not going to be open so they can make other decisions or arrangements. And not being open, believe me, is not our desire and our first choice at all, it's our last choice. But it would be, we feel it's a forced choice.
Joe?
Just to comment on that, Royal, COVID-19 is gonna tell us what we can and can't do. You need to have plan A. I'm not telling you what to do right now, and I wanna move off of this subject to give other people comments. No one can tell what COVID-19 is gonna do. So you have to have resilience of what plan A, plan B, plan C, and unfortunately, you gotta wait for them to make different decisions.
But we have plan A through Z.
Okay, then you're good. So, any other comments from the public?
Yes, I have a comment.
Hold on, let's just wait. Anybody else in the Zoom world? Dan?
Well, just an observation, in my store, obviously being close to the mountain, a lot of the people that work there, who worked at the mountain will come in. The whole team that operated, making the snowmaking and the features and all, and now in Park City, Utah. Some of them were laid off, some of them were given lousy positions, they left. The gentleman, Mike Quinn, who did all the repairs on all the snowcats, his staff was laid off. He's now working for Piscataway in Maine. So I don't see any infrastructure at the mountain that they're really even interested in running the mountain. And that's the big worry that I have.
Tracy, would you like me to comment? I'd love it, thank you. Yeah, so you can expect an announcement, in the very near future on what's gonna happen on snow this winter. I think it'll be great news for the whole community. So, that should come out really soon and we'll be able to follow up on those details. The people that you mentioned, they weren't laid off, they were furloughed. And so there's a huge difference between a layoff and a furlough. Very few people at Mount Snow were actually laid off in their jobs. So a furlough is very different. We were covering their full medical care if they were on our health insurance. So a furlough is very different, and they were back to work. And so then, and some of them chose to leave. The people that left that you're talking about in the terrain park, that's the Carithia Terrain Park, right, that brand. And we have a job posting to hire a new terrain park manager. And there are still people in that department, and we're planning on having a terrain park this one. And yeah, and so and we've been lucky that we have had some new people move into the community, and so we've been backfilling. We got a new mechanic that started last week that had just moved here from the south. And so we are backfilling a lot of positions with people that have recently moved into the community that we're thrilled about. And so we are planning on being open this winter. And you'll see that announcement really, really soon.
Thank you.
That's nice to hear. And I understand, particularly lodging properties with the way things fly around this valley, people are nervous, very, very nervous. And it is getting, as we keep talking about, the leaves are starting to change, getting cooler, everybody's thinking about it. So, thank you. Eric, did you have something else to say on that?
No, I just wanted to reiterate that I will be in constant contact with Tracy and her team, to reassure our local businesses of plans. And, I didn't mean to put Tracy on the spot first thing this morning with that. I appreciate you making a comment.
Yeah, I know it's a huge concern for the community and realize that and want to be open and as honest as we can be about what's going on. And so I promise you'll see it really, really soon. Anybody else have any other comments, suggestions? Eric?
So I know we can't vote on it. We can't vote on anything here, correct? That's a select board.
Yeah, this is a work session.
Okay.
We can.
Pretty good warrant stuff.
I would just like any kind of feedback at all on whether or not I should proceed with the economic development website, or if it's something we should focus differently on.
Kevin, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, sure. I also have quite a bit of information because I had started doing some of the work on potentially rebuilding and getting more information for redesign and build with Steve, and that ball kept dropping, and I have quite a lot of information that I'll be able to give to you and that we can coordinate on, because I was going to start to just build one as well, because I've done that for years and years and years also. So I think that If I give you my information and we combine that, we can really get very efficient about what we can do, because you already may have some information available to you that you didn't know about.
Yeah.
So anything changing the website, we have to bring up at a meeting.
Well, this is a $200 expenditure.
Correct, but that's changing the whole website. I think that needs to be in a regular.
It would be a separate
It's
page.
a subset.
This is a totally it's a sub-page of the
It's a
town
subset.
website. So,
And it's $200.
I like that, idea a lot.
like, we're not talking about,
Okay,
like,
so you're not changing the.
we
okay.
have $15,000 in the budget to recreate the Town of Dover website. I have personally no interest in rebuilding the Town of Dover website. That's a process that I would like to have Jeanette involved with, Abby involved with, because that's also in
But
their
this is
realm.
basically a sub.
This is entirely for economic development, so that as we have programs, as we have information to share, we can use that as the source of that information. It's a little more current looking. It's, it gives us a lot more space to provide that information than what we're currently looking at.
I mean, I don't, my feeling is we could have something as another resource to our community and for our business community and for our residents. I think it's great. I don't have a problem with it. It's economic development money and you have the money there, so it's really us saying it's okay to do it. I just, so you basically are the only one that knows how to change or put information in, or is it both you guys?
But it's the platform that's being used for this, it's drag and drop, it's incredibly
So,
easy to use.
to me, this is the question that I always ask myself. Is it gonna help your department be more efficient if you get that up and running?
Yes.
Okay, then I have no problem. I don't know what the rest of the board feels, but I think anything that you can do to make yourself more efficient and that department, you need to move forward with it. I have trust in what you're doing.
So the reason that I brought it in front of you guys is because, again, you're not paying me to be a web designer, right? You're paying me to manage the economic development department of the town of Dover. So I didn't want this to be something that I'm like, yeah, I've spent countless hours of work working on this. What do you think? So this is a project that's been done outside of work hours. I haven't tied Shannon in or Jeanette in yet, because if we weren't going to move forward, there was no reason to.
I have no problem.
But if, we'll get it on an agenda to vote about whether or not we want to, fund it, and then we'll go from there.
I think that we should do it quickly, and I think that you should absolutely bring Shannon in, because this is one of the duties that I think is easy for Shannon to do. And, I appreciate the initiative, that's fantastic, and I think that if we could do something like this, it's been sorely needed, and this is a good intermediary step. I completely agree. I do think that we need to have a real understanding when we go to the whole town website, whose responsibility it is ultimately, using the resources that we have within the community and the town office. But I hate duplication of effort, so we need to really streamline that direction where that's going to go. That's just my 2 cents. Dan, you have anything to say?
I think it's a very useful tool, particularly for business people, who always wind up getting in trouble doing something that wasted a lot of our time trying to straighten out. And the idea is that there's some resource that they can start with, you can point them in the direction, and everybody's on with them. So they can be sensible to the piece of paper and come and find them. I like it.
Sarah, you have any comments on this?
On just that, I think I want to compliment Eric on being proactive on this. I think it's going to be a very valuable resource, and I can't wait to see it in action.
So I did just want to reiterate again, the reason that I went in this direction is because in the research that I was doing for town websites, this is the trend, is to send and have that separate subsection of economic development, because there's so much information that we can be providing to people that pertains to economic development, that I don't see it as a duplication of efforts. Yes, some of the things will be the same, but the more places there is to access that information, the better, in my opinion.
That's not what I really meant. I meant in terms of our personnel.
Oh, okay.
I think that we need to have a clear understanding on who handles what part of things, and so that we aren't duplicating. We don't have that many resources, and everybody's stretched thin. Tabby's stretched thin.
Yep.
You guys are busy. Jeanette is very, very busy. So let's just make sure we know whose responsibility things are.
So correct, the structure, you two are here today, but next year you two might not be here, so we want to have it keep going and just have this. No, I'm just saying, you know, it's your job, it's the other job. Okay,
Tabby.
that's why we just want to make sure it's strong.
This is an excellent jumping off point to show the viability of streamlining, updating, and getting our view and face to the public. What's great is, as you know, as I was doing research as well, that whole economic development section is an arm. So whatever it is that we do, whichever way we go, that one button that says economic development can go directly to what you've built and all of that. And I think it's a fabulous start to really show the capabilities and what we can do. So that's a great way to get going.
And that can be,
Eric?
that can be linked from our website in a way that it doesn't make you leave the Town of Dover website too.
Yeah.
It opens a new window so that the Town of Dover is still right there, because there is information that is pertinent to the town website that may not be pertinent to ED. The other really nice thing about this website is, out of the box, it's responsive. So if somebody visits on a website, like our website, on a cell phone or a tablet, it's formatted in that way so that they can easily access the information.
Excellent. Any other comments about anything else? Hearing no more, and thank you everybody for coming out early this morning. And, I think this is great, and we'll come up with a plan to do this more frequently, not annually, or it might have been a couple of years. And we'll move forward with that. With that, I'd like a motion to go into executive session with Eric.
Second.
I second it.
I didn't make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
I made the motion.
Joe made the motion, Dan seconded it. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Stop recording?
Yep.